Welcome to Investment 101. We often focus on the grand strategies of asset allocation and compounding interest, but the most foundational element of wealth building is not earning more, it is preserving what you already have. Today, we address the silent killer of budgets, the immediate, often emotional decision to buy something within seconds of seeing it. This instantaneous reaction is what we call the 3-second rule of impulse buying. This rule posits that if you make a purchasing decision in under 3 seconds, that decision is almost certainly driven by emotion and not by rational financial analysis. This impulsive behavior, often triggered by clever marketing or momentary desire, is the biggest leak in your financial security. Identifying and controlling this initial split-second urge is the first step toward financial mastery.
To combat the impulse, we must understand its biological roots. The 3-second threshold is directly tied to the brain's reward system, specifically the release of dopamine. When you encounter something novel or desirable, a new shoe, a limited time offer, your brain anticipates pleasure. This anticipation drives the immediate action of clicking Add to Cart or reaching for your wallet. Studies in behavioral finance show that the conscious, analytical part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, takes slightly longer to engage than the primal reward centers. If you act before that rational processing power kicks in, you are fundamentally letting a fleeting feeling override your long-term goals. We need a systematic mechanism to force the prefrontal cortex online before the financial damage is done.
Many people dismiss impulse purchases as minor indiscretions, just a coffee here, a subscription box there, but let's quantify the damage. Even if your average impulse purchase is a modest $15, making just 3 such purchases a week aggregates to $45. Over a year, this leakage amounts to over $2,340. Now consider that same $2,340 invested instead, earning a modest 8% return. After 10 years, that initial capital leakage could have compounded into a substantial 5-figure sum. The true cost of the impulse buy isn't the item itself, it's the opportunity cost of what that money could have become. This realization transforms minor spending habits from trivial errors into significant deterrents to achieving financial independence. The practical application of the 3-second rule is simple yet revolutionary. When a desire to purchase arises, you must consciously and physically pause for at least 3 seconds before taking any action. This is the pause mechanism. During this pause, you must mentally vocalize 3 critical questions. First, do I already own something that fulfills this purpose? Second, is this purchase accounted for in my current budget? And third, and most importantly, what is the opportunity cost of this money right now? Forcing this internal interrogation disrupts the emotional reflex. It requires mental exertion, and often the momentary effort needed to pause is enough friction to cool the urge before the dopamine rush seals the deal. A highly effective structural strategy for managing online impulses is the wish list buffer. Instead of buying immediately, transfer the item to a dedicated digital wish list or clipboard. The wish list buffer acts as a quarantine zone for emotional purchases. The rule is simple. You must wait 48 hours before reviewing the item in the buffer. If after 48 hours, the excitement has waned or you find the rationale weak, you delete it. This delay is long enough to allow the emotional intensity to dissipate and the rational part of your brain to assess the purchase's necessity truly. If the item is still genuinely necessary after 2 full days of deliberation, then, and only then, can you proceed with the purchase, ideally fitting it into your next spending allocation. To prevent the impulse entirely, you must analyze your triggers, the environmental cues that sabotage your budget. Are you scrolling through social media product placements during your lunch break? Are you visiting certain stores just to browse when you're feeling stressed or bored? Identifying the when and where of your impulses allows you to engineer your environment for success. Implement friction methods, unsubscribe from promotional emails, delete shopping apps, or set specific limited windows for screen time. When boredom hits, replace the automatic shopping reflex with a financially positive activity, such as reviewing your investment portfolio or reading a book on personal finance. Proactive environmental control is far easier than reactive impulse resistance. When evaluating an item outside the 3-second impulse window, introduce the concept of cost per use, CPU.
Instead of viewing a $200 jacket as expensive, divide its cost by the anticipated number of times you will actually use it over its lifetime. A high-quality $200 jacket worn 100 times has a CPU of $2. Conversely, a clearance $20 gadget that sits unused in a drawer has an infinite CPU, making it the most expensive item you own. This calculation shifts the focus from the sticker price to true value and longevity. The goal is to maximize the utilization of your capital. If the CPU analysis reveals high value and necessity, the purchase is justified. If the CPU is unclear or potentially very high, the pause mechanism has succeeded, and you should walk away.
The landscape of impulse buying differs significantly between digital and physical shopping environments. Online retailers are masters of psychological urgency, utilizing countdown timers, limited stock notifications, and seamless one-click checkout processes designed to bypass the 3-second rule immediately. In this scenario, the friction methods must be digital, manually removing stored credit card information, forcing yourself to retrieve your physical wallet for every purchase, or using a separate browser profile dedicated solely to purchasing necessities. In physical stores, the challenge is visibility. Implement the one-hand rule. Only allow yourself to hold one item at a time while shopping. This prevents mindlessly filling a cart and forces a conscious decision before the hand moves to pick up the next potential impulse buy.
The ultimate goal is not just to stop spending, but to strategically redirect that energy. Every time you successfully implement the 3-second rule and choose not to make an impulse purchase, immediately quantify that saved money and transfer it. Open a dedicated savings account or investment fund labeled Impulse Savings. If you successfully avoided a $50 purchase, transfer $50 immediately. This creates a powerful positive feedback loop. Instead of associating abstinence with denial, you associate it with immediate financial growth. You are actively turning destructive impulse energy into constructive investment energy, making the conscious decision to purchase assets instead of depreciating liabilities. We must visualize the long-term impact of maintaining this discipline. Imagine that instead of leaking $200 per month on impulse items, you consistently redirect that money into a diversified index fund. After 2 decades, assuming conservative returns, that consistent, disciplined redirection could easily contribute 6 figures to your net worth. This is not about deprivation. It is about deferred gratification, resulting in exponential returns. The small, successful resistance to a momentary urge today is equivalent to making a highly profitable investment. The discipline learned through the 3-second rule is the core behavioral muscle that supports all advanced investment strategies, moving you from being a consumer to being a capital owner. To summarize our Investment 101 strategy for impulse control, first, recognize the 3-second threshold as the point of emotional vulnerability. Second, institute the pause mechanism by asking the 3 critical questions about necessity, budget, and opportunity cost. Third, utilize the 48-hour wish list buffer for all non-essential online items. Fourth, aggressively de-trigger your environment by removing temptations. And finally, reinforce success by immediately redirecting saved funds into investment vehicles. This system is designed to put a decisive roadblock between stimulus and response, ensuring that every penny spent or saved is the result of a deliberate, rational choice aligned with your long-term financial goals, rather than a fleeting whim.
Mastering your spending habits is the low-hanging fruit of financial security. You don't need a higher salary or complex trading knowledge. You only need disciplined delay. By implementing the 3-second rule consistently, you are taking proactive control of your cash flow, ensuring that your money works for you, rather than being carelessly thrown away on transient satisfaction. Start today by identifying your next likely impulse purchase trigger and preparing your 3-second defense strategy. Commitment to this simple rule will fundamentally alter your relationship with money, paving the way for serious wealth accumulation. Take charge of those crucial 3 seconds.